Jerry Seinfeld said, I always enjoy the applause at the beginning because I'm not sure if it's going to be there at the end.
That's why we do it.
That's why you do it. Well, okay. And it's kind of nice to be in a technical college because a million years ago, I went to Southwest Fermanagh Technical College. And if you know where that is, I'll be so impressed because it's about 4,000 miles away from here. And so it's nice to be back in a technical college, kind of getting back. I have a degree in engineering, which I've never used. But some of the things that I learned at college in this world have come to fruition down through the years. So the background story is important to the business because most businesses have a story. I'll give you my short version. I get off the boat in 99. I meet this guy, Kieran. He has a couple of Irish pubs. I get a job. I'm there for a year. I'm doing okay. And he says to me, we need to milk St. Patrick's Day for longer than a day and make it last for a week because these Americans, you know, they've got money and we need to get it off them. So one of the ideas I had was to start a bar trivia. This is before bar trivia, pub trivia was even a thing here. And I got to host it, and I hadn't felt that thrill of being in front of a crowd since I was 9 years old at my grandfather's funeral. Okay, so it was nice to have all that attention, I think was the deal. So I started doing bar trivia, and then I started getting booked to do it for parties and private events because I was enjoying it. And then as those events got bigger, I kind of moved away from the bar with Kieran's blessing and had sort of a full-time hustle doing that. As the events got bigger, I was renting keypads and clickers for the large audience participation, and they were expensive and clunky and didn't always work. And I got frustrated, and like most good ideas, they come from a pain point, and I was experiencing the pain myself, so I needed to solve that pain. So I approached a couple of developers at the time, and I was watching what was going on with Twitter and texting and social media. I'm like, there's got to be a way to harness that engagement with the crowd. At the same time, I was also getting booked to MC events. So if I'm really bad at presenting today, then I have failed 15 years of presenting. So these developers who happened also to be bar trivia fans, the Hot Pocket consuming, Diet Mountain Dew drinking mother's basement dwellers, who only came out when there was a quiz on so they could drink really hoppy beer, put together this little tool where you could go on your phone and send answers to me. I would score them, and it was a lot easier, and it was great. Being in the meetings and events industry, I was watching a lot of technology coming into that space. Some of it was really exciting. Some of it was very overwhelming. Now, your quintessential meeting planner is sort of like 45 to 60-year-old female who loves having a big binder, 3-ring binder with floor plans and double-sided buffet options. And I've said this in front of them, so I'm not being disparaging to them because I love them all. And so with this wave of technology, they were overwhelmed. And then the recession happened in 2008. And I went to a conference for meeting planners all over the country. And there was a special panel discussion on what are we going to do with this downturn in our economy. And for the Q&A session, there was 2,000 attendees. For the Q&A, they had 4 microphones. And I'm sitting around, I'm pretty outgoing, and I wasn't prepared to run up and get on the microphone and ask a question. And my thought was, there's probably a bunch of other people here with really good ideas, and it's not being harnessed. But they're all on their phones. And then I thought of my little trivia tool, and I'm like, well, why couldn't we just use it to send questions? So the first iteration of this came from building a tool where an audience could interact with a speaker or a panel easily. I was looking at the value of apps for these events. You had to remember passwords. You had to download. These were all friction points. I was also reading about Amazon, where removing all the friction points to purchasing was the key to getting the business. So in my mind, whatever we were building needed to be on the web, and it needed to be easy to access. At the same time, I was tired of drinking Diet Mountain Dew and staying in my own basement, So I joined Cocoa, which was actually revolutionary. I just went there with this idea. I really didn't have a product. And then I put out an APB to find a developer because the quiz guys were not interested in another idea. They were happy we had a bunch of other business going. And I remember going up to the front desk at Cocoa and saying, I need a guy who can process a lot of data and who's worked with a lot of data, who has got plenty of money, because I want him to work for free, but also wants to be part of something. And the guy's like, yeah, there's probably about none of them here, but I'll check this guy and this guy. And he introduced me to a guy actually from Eden Prairie, Andy Grant, who at the time, and I'm going to get some of the numbers wrong, but somewhere around this region, he had just built a system for a trucking company where it tracked mileage, stops, sort of a logistics tool that he had built. And he got paid an insane amount of money, in my mind, like $200,000-$300,000. Don't quote me on that. I know it's on video. Somewhere to that region. And he thought to himself, this is it. This is what it's all about. However, the company that he built it for was bought for $70 million. So he's like $300,000 because of the value of the tool that he built. So he had built this great tool, got well paid for it, but saw what it had been sold for. So I got him right at the moment when he was like having this realization. I'm like, I have this idea, I have this market, I just need someone to build it. And he goes, well, can I be part of it? And I go, well, of course, that makes sense, because I can't afford to pay you $300,000 to build this thing. So it was like the perfect timing. I'd gone to lots of entrepreneurial events, funding, startups, all of that, and talking about money. But I was very determined, having already spent 8 years building a business without any funding and being self-sustaining, to continue that model. And being at Cocoa and going to a lot of these types of events and being exposed and to private equity and capital companies, and I'm probably not even describing them correctly, because I really wasn't listening to them, because I didn't want the autonomy of what we were trying to do to be handed off and sort of be superseded by the bottom line. The bottom line wasn't important to me. Having come from a restaurant background, it was the service. There was a lot of technical companies out there providing really cool technology for events, but what they weren't doing the personal service to an industry and to a group like the planners I mentioned earlier, to hold their hand and say, yes, this may seem overwhelming, what do you need? And so when we built our first sort of tool, and this is kind of an example of it, we wanted to keep it simple, and we really went out to those planners and say, what do you want? What do you need? Talk to me about your event and how technology can enhance your event, instead of me standing giving you a 20-minute presentation on all these tools that you may or may not need for your event. So it was very much a switch the conversation. We would go to trade shows and we would see other tech companies in our space talking about the latest gadgetry and handing them devices and showing all this cool stuff it did with lasers and who knows what. And we would just simply ask the questions. Tell me about your events. Where are your pain points? Billion-dollar companies are built and scaled on building a tool and then making it, automated for everybody else. Our business model is a little different, and in my mind, we've been really in business, in sustaining business for the last 3 years, is really based on what do you need? We will build it for you, specifically for you. We'll obviously own the technology so we can make it available to everybody else that needs it and tweak it as we go. And using that model, we've built a range of tools for events that are now sustainable. So we started with just the interactive stuff, and let's do can we do a demo? Will that be good? Yeah. So if you've got your phones, take them out and simply go in your browser. That's where you go on the internet. You'd be surprised. What's a browser? VHV.me. If I had a dry erase marker, I could be a real lecturer now. VHV.me is the URL, and that should take you to this page. So that should be simple enough. Let's click on the opening word cloud, and the question is, one word to best describes how you're feeling right now. My son tested this morning, and I guess the word doggo is Urban Dictionary for dog. Why they would want to extend the word when dog is perfectly simple. Who understands kids? Not me. So, as you're putting the words in, somebody puts doggo in, it gets bigger. So you can imagine if you're at a conference how easy it is if I'm a CEO and I'm like, how's everybody feeling today? And this fills up 300 words pretty quickly. It can be pretty engaging. My favorite example of this was this woman, Roz Savage, at a conference. Just saw a quick iteration of this. She did a presentation where she asked the audience to put in a word that best describes leadership. And, of course, they put in all the buzzwords, courage, tenacity, yada, 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 because they knew their bosses would be watching. Yeah, you can try and put swear words in, but there's a filter on it because we've learned. We've done public television events. Well played, Pat. And they put in the buzzword. She gave a very poignant, very vulnerable presentation on being the first woman to single-handedly row across the Atlantic on her own. And it was pretty powerful stuff. At the end, she asked them to put the word in again, and then she put the two word clouds up, and she goes, this is who you are when your boss is watching, and this is who you are. So it was a very powerful way to use this very simple tool. Let's go to the next one, the polling one. What's your favorite season? Again, my son checked it out this morning, and his favorite season is hockey, because he asked me to put that in there. He goes, hockey's not on here. Again, you want the interaction to be easy and instant. So you're not spending time remembering passwords and getting to it. So these are just a couple of quick examples. We've also got a very neat little Q&A tool. We've done events with Nobel Prize winners. We've actually had 17 Nobel laureates use our Q&A tool, which is kind of a cool statistic, because it's so easy. And, you have a lot of people online watching different lectures, submitting questions. That way, everybody is contributing to the event. And then the tools to moderate that and send questions to the presenter, we've built those as well, and it's pretty straightforward. So we like to keep things simple but effective. And so using that model, something like this, then we can add on content, agenda, speaker bios. We can house presentations. And suddenly the growth of the company is based on doing the simple things really easily and really well and asking those questions, what can we do better? We don't have an R&D department. Our Bible, if there's such a thing, it's not written by goat herders from 2,000 years ago, little Irish joke. It's written by Jason Fried, the base camp guy, and basically every chapter is a page. And it just spoke to us because there's stuff in there like meetings are a waste of time, forecasts, waste of time, estimates, goal setting. A lot of that stuff that you're brought up and you're taught in the corporate world doesn't really work if you're starting your own business because you're really kind of groping in the dark, so to speak, trying to figure out your way forward. Our company has grown 50% year over year, and I only know that because one of our accountant ladies told us, because it's not really the focus. We really home in on the service and home in on making the technology easy. And to be honest, and it sounds a little weird, but the business then takes care of itself. We really take care of the customers. And again, I'll bring you back to my buddy Kieran, who opened 4 very successful Irish pubs. His mantra was, everybody else is selling hot food and cold beer. Irish cuisine's never going to win any culinary awards. What's going to separate us from the competition? What is the expectation? The service. If we treat people that they can't wait to come back, not that they're planning to come back, not that they're thinking about coming back, they can't wait to come back, whether that be employees coming to work or whether that be customers, that's our goal. And so I've kind of adopted that, which is kind of weird, I know, but in the tech space and in the service space. So when people say, what is Voice Hive? I'll go, it's part technology and it's part service, because we spend a lot of time asking questions and hearing what our customers want, and our core business still comes. We can track it all the way back to the people that we first had those conversations with, and they've referred it. No offense to marketing and sponsor strategists, and I think there's a couple of them here. We've never spent a penny on advertising, and yet, we've now made over $1 million in revenue, which we're very proud of, without spending any money on marketing, purely on word-of-mouth referral. But again, being specific to an industry where a lot of these industry meeting planners talk to each other, and if they like something and it works for them, they're going to tell everybody. So it's all those old school service elements that work. Part of this presentation, what I've learned in the day and a half that I've learned about it, is, bringing problems or bringing issues or something that with this sort of crowd can help. And obviously, I hope you have questions as well. Not doing any marketing, and so far in the 3.5 years that we've really been doing this, we've been successful. We now build things like registration sites, Fortune 100 companies that shall remain nameless that are rather large in this vicinity have hired us to build all sorts of cool internal communication tools that are based on instant, they're having a conference call across the enterprise, across the country. People can submit questions. People can take polling, all internally, so it's gone beyond events. We didn't think about that. They came to us with the ideas, and we kind of built it up from there. That, to me, is then something I can present to other large companies who are really trying to, let's use the PC term, they're really trying to build the culture of the company. They've got a lot of millennials coming in who don't have a sense of behavioral, their behavior isn't obey, work hard, get 20 years, get promotion, and get my gold watch. It's more, what are we doing? What are we doing in the wider community? How can I contribute? How are we taking care of the environment, et cetera, et cetera? Those conversations. And the only way upper level can hear those conversations is if we provide easy tools for them to navigate, and everybody's on their phone anyway. So that's where I see the opportunities. What I want to know is, I want you to poke holes in this. Where do you see the problem? So I've been doing this 3.5 to 5 years, and we're kind of chugging along, and we're doing great. We have no intentions of being an IPO and getting $1 billion in funding and becoming billionaires and living on Lake Minnetonka. We enjoy this. I would say it's even part of this business's lifestyle, because it kind of works with our idea of how we want to work, Andy and I, and the people that we contract with us. We've gotten to go all over the world. These Nobel laureate events are all over the world. We get to travel with that, so we've had that fun. But I want to know where, if you were looking at this business and you were looking to invest in this, where would you see the potential issues? Because I would like to know what they are so I could be aware of them, just keep them in the back of my head. So with that, that's kind of like the bulk of it.